Welcome to the Le Col Cycling Club. If you live in Northern Europe, you may have noticed that we're heading towards the time of year when many of us will start to think about indoor training, either because of the weather conditions, it's simply a bit nasty outside, or because of the reduced daylight hours. If we wish to maintain a good level of fitness throughout the winter months, indoor training is something that we may consider doing more often. Throughout this video, I'm going to share with you some of my top tips after hundreds, if not thousands of hours of indoor training. Before you start training indoors, you may well find it beneficial to conduct some benchmarking tests. This is especially useful if you're training to heart rate or to power data. Remember, all of your training zones are a continuum. It's not simply start or stop when you leave zone 3 into zone 4. Because of this, which test you actually use isn't quite as important as people often think. The daily discrepancy in our performance will more than make up for the percentage difference in which test results you're using. If you've never done some indoor tests before, I would consider using the same protocols you use outside, whether that's a 20-minute test or the 4DP test, for example. Personally, my favorite, if you're unsure which one to use, is the Zwift ramp tests. These are easily conductable and also that makes them more repeatable. They're not too strenuous and it's not as stressful as a full 20-minute effort outdoors. Let's talk timings and durations. When it comes to indoor training, it's unrealistic to expect to train as much as you would when you're outside. Take an endurance session, you can reduce the total workload down to 50 or 60%. When it comes to intervals, you want to aim to warm up well, conduct the intervals, shorten the rest periods ever so slightly, depending on the interval that you're doing, and then cool down afterwards. You want to spend as little time on the trainer as possible whilst conducting the correct amount of workload. Doing this will reduce the contact time with the indoor trainer, making it easier to be more consistent with your training and also therefore more achievable to conduct the training more often. Unlike riding outside, where going for a bike ride can be a really rewarding experience, when it comes to riding indoors, you want to make sure you're doing it with a strict plan to follow. Make sure that if you're doing an endurance ride, you know exactly how long you'll be riding and at what intensity. If it's intervals, make sure that they fit into your weekly schedule and they are well planned and well thought out intervals. It is especially important to plan ahead and make sure that your indoor ride fits within the greater picture of what you're trying to achieve. Simply jumping on the bike and aimlessly pedaling is a fast track route to training fatigue, training burnout, or the idea that it simply becomes that little bit stale and undesirable as the winter months go on. When it comes to training frequency, riding indoors 4 to 5 times is enough, even if you're not riding outside at all. If you're still riding outside at the weekends, then 2 or 3 midweek sessions is enough to help you improve your fitness throughout the winter months. Training indoors no longer needs to be the antisocial experience it once was. No more staring at the garage wall all on your own. It's much easier to stay in contact with other people whilst you're suffering, and suffering together definitely makes it that little bit easier. When we're hosting the Le Col Zwift sessions, we can communicate via the Zwift companion app. That makes it really easy to have a WhatsApp style conversation via text. People use Discord to great success. FaceTime is another great way that you can video call with 1 or 2 or several people that you want to stay in touch with. It helps add an element of social interaction, but it also helps maintain a level of accountability in your training. And if you're suffering together, you're building a bond with someone, but also you're helping push each other, and therefore your training will become more successful as the winter goes on. Creating an achievable training plan at the start of any training phase will help ensure you maintain a good level of consistency with a goal to work towards on every single session. If you're stuck for ideas, we have almost 8 months worth of training plans free to download on the Le Col Cycling Club. There's something there for everyone, I feel, from beginner right through to the more advanced cyclists. Take some time looking through there and download one of the training programs now. There are 4 pillars to indoor training success: motivation, hydration, determination, and ventilation, and not necessarily in that order. What I mean is motivation. Why is it you're doing that training? What is it that's driving you to achieve the result that you're looking for? Determination. You're going to have to dig in. It's going to hurt. You're going to start suffering at some point. What is it that's forcing you to complete something that you're not necessarily enjoying at the time? Hydration. Drinking more than just water is the best way to hydrate. Electrolytes are available on the market, and these are the most efficient way of hydrating properly for an indoor trainer session. You're going to be losing a lot of fluid. And then ventilation. Having a really good high quality fan is fantastic. Having 2 or 3 is even better. Going to your local DIY store and buying the biggest fan that you can find is probably the most cost-effective way to do this. In order to make sure that you maintain a good level of consistency when it comes to training indoors, you want to make sure that your setup is as accessible as possible. What I mean by this is you want to make sure that there are as fewer hurdles as possible getting in your way to start training each time. Whether that means having your kit laid out the night before, setting your bike up the day before if you're using your normal bike on an indoor trainer, or having a permanent setup that's always ready to go. Maybe you could consider having an older second bike that just permanently lives on the Turbo Trainer. If your setup is 100% ready to go each and every single time, all your devices are fully charged, it will be much easier to achieve the level of success that you're hoping to gain from your winter of indoor training. We mentioned before that indoor training no longer needs to be this uncomfortable, isolating and antisocial experience, but you can take that one step further by turning it into quite a comfortable and luxury thing to do. Creating a specific area with some nice mood lighting might be a great way to make you feel more comfortable about getting onto the bike, something to look forward to perhaps. But you can take that further by adding some nice memorabilia that you may have, some pictures and posters to add inspiration for when the going gets tough. If you're intending to be spending many hours training indoors throughout the winter, it can be really beneficial to spend some time creating an inspiring place to be. For added comfort, you may wish to make some adaptations to your indoor bike that you don't use outside. As you can see, I've added aerodynamic extension bars to mine to relieve the pressure around my hands, my neck and my shoulders. To prevent corrosion, I highly recommend you wipe down your indoor trainer after every use. And then finally, adding some extra comfort via media, whether that's a big screen to watch some of your favourite bike races on, or your favourite film, or your favourite playlist. The only thing I would say is to steer clear of over-the-ear headphones, because at anything above low zone 2, these can become incredibly warm. Either opt for a big speaker if your neighbours aren't going to be too upset, or some inner ear headphones. Hopefully you found these tips useful. If you have any of your own, we would love to hear them, so drop them in the comments box below. If you haven't joined one of our Le Col Zwift sessions yet, it would be great to see you there. We host sessions on a Monday, Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Friday, and on a Sunday. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.